All right, today in class, we'll be making a very basic roll cage that will hopefully match the roll cages that we find within the Baja SAE rules found at bajasae.net. Here's the PDF file, and you can scroll down until you find figure B-8. We're going to try to make this one as close as we can as a starting point, and then we'll try to go through and make sure it meets all the rules within the Baja SAE rules. So let's get started. We'll first of all make this beam right down at the bottom, and then we'll draw a perimeter around the outside edge and then expand it out into a third dimension. So let's get started with using inches, new part, standard, create, and I am going to give this first dimension a unit. I'm going to call it, I kind of made some estimations here. So I'm going to call this first beam right here kind of the midline of the cockpit, and that's going to be, in our case, 38.3 inches. And we'll scroll back like this as we make the rest of this sketch. So let's pull that down a little bit. The rest of these will not have dimensions. We will just roughly sketch them. So this will go out toward the nose of the vehicle. Let's see if I can get the lines turned on for construction. So this one will go out here. I think it's going to be like 17. You know what? I will put this first one on 17.5. And then it goes up and to the left. And it comes back over here. This is kind of like almost the windshield, so to speak, area of the vehicle right here. There's the top. The engine will be back here. And I think in that diagram, they have a vertical line right here. And then coming back over to that area. So you can see this is the perimeter of the vehicle as seen from the right-hand side view right here. I guess we can call it the front, but I guess to me it's almost like more like more like the right-hand side view. We can call that the front of the vehicle. All right, so let's put a few more measurements in there that I've determined will get us close to what the diagram shows us in the rules. So one thing we could do is adjust our number of digits that we're going to display. So let's go into document settings and go to units. And I think we might only need just 0.1 on precision. The next dimension that I estimated in making these, let's see, are we still doing that? Yep. All right. Is this one right here. And in order to make this diagonal dimension, you want to click in the middle, and we want this one to be exactly 18. This one right here, we want this one to be 23. And we'll see if that takes us past there. Yeah, it takes us a little bit past vertical. When we come back and make some modifications, we might make that vertical just to make it easy for us. What else to mention? What other dimensions we know? On this one, I estimated that for us to make something that matches their diagram, that needs to be 30. This needs to be 20. And we're going to keep at it until we get something that's fully defined, fully constrained. Uh, so at this one right here, on this one, I am going to put 35.1. And then on this one, let's see. It's kind of hard to say, but let me try this other one instead. Let's try this one and see if that's going to be enough. So this one should be 29.8. Does that make us fully defined? Not yet. We need a few more. So let's get a few more things in here. Maybe this top distance, we can try to put that in there. I estimate that to be, let's see, 32.3 plus a curvature right there of 3.5. So I did put a fillet in that area to get us there. Now, it doesn't look like it's fully defined yet. So let's see, what could it be that we need to define? Probably some, more angles or what have you. I would imagine that it would be this diagonal, which is where our firewall is going to be. So let's make one that goes right here. And let's see if the distance or the length of the firewall is something that we can measure from my estimations. Maybe so. So let's see if this is going to lock us down to a fully defined sketch. And it looks like it does. but it doesn't look like it's the proper shape here. So let me see if I made an error somewhere. Yeah, so one area looks like it's right here. It should have been 29.8. Maybe I said it the right way out loud. All right, there's our perimeter of our vehicle. We can kind of look at it from the side like this to see that it is an outline. The only beam that is going to be real, I think, is this one right here. And by real, I mean that actually exists. So you can see that there's no beam that goes around the perimeter of the vehicle. But now what we're going to do is use these points that are along the perimeter to make these horizontal beams like this. I think in the textbook, I'm sorry, in the rules rather, they give these various names. Let's see if I can find a few. You can see like GG is one of them, or don't they have some other names? Like here's GLC, ELC. So we're going to basically give you those measurements to see if we can get really close to a starting point that looks like this. Again, it won't be a final product, but at least it'll be something that's roughed out to get us close to a starting point before we just start to determine whether our rules are applying to each one of these dimensions. So let's finish that sketch and let's begin a new three-dimensional sketch. And this is where we're going to put those horizontal lines in there or perpendicular lines. I'm going to try for a midpoint line, although it doesn't look like I can easily do that. I don't see a midpoint feature there. If we look at how many we need one right here. One, two. I don't think we need one there. Let's see, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So let's just make a bunch of these that are going to go along the red axis. In other words, the x-axis. And I'll show you, I shouldn't have had these right here and there. I'll show you what we're going to do with these just by getting started. And that is, let's put some constraints in there and say that the midpoint of this one is going to be right on that right there. And it says failed to make a constraint. Let me see why that would be. Let me pause the video. Okay, so my guess is that this sketch right here is not really part of this three-dimensional sketch. So I wonder if we can project it onto a surface. I think it's actually this one. And then we select the entire sketch that we're looking at, that one right there. Maybe I have to define the sketch here. Is it all of those? I don't think so. Let's see. Define the intersecting geometry. I guess, oh, okay, that's what we're looking at right there. In other words, we're trying to make this go into the third dimension right there. So I guess that's select geometry to be intersected. That's going to be right here, the sketch number one. Or if I can click on each one, that does not work. So let me see if I can figure out what happened there. Pause the video. You know, I have a hunch, but I think it's about projection, not about intersection, because that's the way that we discussed it when we were dealing with only two-dimensional sketches. So let's see if that's actually the case. Let's go to projected sketch like this. Ah, yeah, it looks like it's closer. And so the faces that we're interested in, we know that this face right here is on that plane, and it's what curves do we want to look at? We want it to be those that are on the sketch. Can I just highlight it like this and get all of those on there? Perhaps we can go right-hand view like that. Try not to get those other ones in line. Or do I have to click each one of these to get it to project? All right, then if I click apply, do I get something that I can use? And it looks like that's the case. Let's go back over like this. And so the only one I see that's not here is maybe that yellow, that black one, but it might just be kind of because it's the only one that is not hidden. Let's try that again, where we're now going to say, let's make this midpoint right here coincident with that one. And so here we're making that perimeter that I was talking about. All right, let's see how many more of these we need. We need one here, one, two, three, four, five, six. And so we'll make six more of those lines. And then I'll pick up my pen this time. One, escape after each one. Like that. Or I wonder if I could just hit Control C and Control V a bunch of times. I kind of put it on top of the other one though. All right, is that six of them yet? One more. And so we start making these midpoints line up so we can measure kind of the width of the vehicle at various points and make it match up with what we see for this starting point sketch that we found within the rules. Okay, so you can see that I have some three-dimensional effects going on right here. And so now let me see if I can get my estimations for these horizontal lines before we move too far along. All right, and of course you can fast forward the video if you want to, but this one right here is going to be our 12 inches, and then this one also be 12 inches. Then it's going to expand out here to where we get toward the roll gauge is. And I think I had at least an initial value of 29. I typed in 39 there. Let me get that corrected. Okay, and then going up from there at this front nose area, it looks like we're going to use 20.3 to approximate it to be what we see in the rules. Also 20.3 here. And we're just going to make that continue on with 20.3. Even I'll go all the way back here as well. Oh, wait. I think part of this we want to be 20.3, but the overall width, I think, is actually 27.5, which you'll see why in a moment. All right, did we get them all in there? What about this back one right here? And this small one right there. So we got two more to go. Let's see. I think the rules say that this has to have a minimum of 10 inches, although I found that their diagram corresponds to 5. So we're just trying to make it exactly equal to the diagram first. And then this back one, I want to say, is that 10 inches? Yeah. So maybe it's this one that's supposed to be 10 inches. Now, can we simply go from there and start finishing up our diagram by playing connect the dots? And you can imagine doing a sweep after this to sweep a shape along the perimeter to get to represent the pipes that are going through there. All right, let's see what else we need to do. We got the other side, right? So let's see if I can just put it in the home position and find all of those points and do that one. So quickly, this becomes three-dimensional after we lay out the perimeter and these, I guess, lateral pieces that we're talking about. All right, what else do we have in here that we need to make? And the first thing I just noticed is that this is not supposed to go to there according to this diagram here. It's supposed to fall short of that. So these two should be parallel to each other. So we're going to make that adjustment. And let's see how we can make that adjustment. Suppose what we could do is go ahead and change this one right here to the 20.3, and then remember that there needs to be another line on there, and this is for the tube bend that we're going to get to in a bit. So it goes here. We'll put it also on that point. It's going to help us with the tube bending. And that one's going to be the 27.5. Okay, looking good so far. All right. Also in the diagram over here, we notice that there's no beam right there. So what we need to do is make that a construction line here. Okay, I thought it was in. Let's see. Let's do a control Y on that one, get that dimension back. And we want to make sure that this one is a construction line. Now we do know, though, that the tube should go from here down to that point, hitting escape, and then also doing the same thing on the other side, like so. All right. Now let's kind of look at what the rest of this diagram looks like. We need to have these side impact members in place. We need to put some curvature on that right there, some curvature on this, and of course, some lateral lines right there. So lots to do still, but I wouldn't say, well, it's not really that much, I suppose. Um, we do want to make this one right here actually a visible line. All right, let me pause right there, let you take a look at it, see what we want to attack next. Let's focus on the remaining atoms one at a time, and that would be the curvature down here. And we don't actually need a pipe across this one, at least for their diagram. So we will take this line here that is visible, make it a construction line. The tube bender that we have is 3.5, so we'll just assume that's the case. It might be that they're using a 6, but I'm just going to use a bend in here. Now, where is the bend? Three-dimensional model. Oh, wait, I was on the wrong one, wasn't I? All right, so I need to edit the three-dimensional sketch. And you can see that the bend is right over here. Zooming in at this point, where we want to put the 3.5. We want to put it here and there. You notice that dotted line will stay over there, and that's okay, because now we have just finished the back part. Now there is another one up here, here, and here, and then also here and here. But you'll notice that this beam is now disconnected from the other one. So this really needs to go back to being a construction line, because what we really want is something that starts at the tangent of that, or the end of that curve as we move into this point. So can we actually draw something like that? Can we lock in on that point and then go exactly horizontal over here and then lock in on the same point? You see it does give me that 20.3 degrees. So there is our other beam. So it looks like we have now handled another key part of the sketch. And am I mistaken, or do we only have just this firewall to go? We have everything else complete. Well, there's some pieces down here that we need to put in place as well. Let's do those because those look to be a little bit easier. We're just talking about two horizontal lines. And so let's get back down there to this one. And you know how to do this, right? We just go in here and say, just make a horizontal line along the red axis, along the x-axis. Do another one. And we're going to use a coincidence to line up our midpoint with the spine of our vehicle. And then here and there. You see, I put it way back there for some reason. So let's see if we can move it forward just by grabbing the middle like so. Then what we can do is also make it coincident with this purple beam. Who knows what that's going to do once we pull that in. Oh, it actually worked pretty well. But we do need to know how far forward it is. And my best guess as to what the author did on this one was, let's see, I think 6 inches. So if we go from, can we go here to here? And that would be 6 inches. And I think, oh, what happened there? Did I type in 60? And then another 6 inches for this other one. Okay. And you can see that really what we're missing on this firewall is, some kind of distance along here. And so that wasn't really, given in our case. So I guess what we'll have to do is kind of stare at this, figure out how we want to get that into the midpoint. Maybe we could put it somewhere right in here. So let's draw that line. again along the red axis. Just find this much more convenient as far as staying organized as far as your three-dimensional sketch. And that probably went way above normals, which is not unexpected. And you bring this down to where you want it. And the actual width that we want to put in here to match the sketch that's within the rules, I think is 35. Yeah, so we'll do a 35 there. Then how far above the ground do we want this one? Let's see. Okay, now I think the distance along the back of the firewall needs to be 17. Is it 17 or 17.5? Yeah, 17.5. Not that many fives. And now we can connect the rest of this. But I don't think that that's actually going to be a line. So we're going to go back to this one and turn it into a construction line. And so now let's connect the rest of this by making this six-sided figure that is going to be our firewall. And I think I accidentally put that cross member in there, which is going to be in there, but not quite yet. Let's go ahead and put our curvature, our bends of 3.5 inches as an estimate. That looks good. And I think there is another line that we have to draw along the red axis. So we will do a coincident with the midpoint and that one. And of course it puts it up. Where does it put it? Does it put it right there? That's a weird place for it. Yeah, it actually did. So that's not really that's really not really what I was looking for. Let's see if I get it closer, if it'll give me a better placement of that. So if we say midpoint here, midpoint there, that's a little better. And of course we want this to stick to the side. Now the estimate that I have for the placement of this real beam from the sketch that's in the rules is, well, I'm not sure yet. I do know we have a diagonal, so we will put this other one in first. So we have it from right about that curvature, right along this back one, all the way against the back, and we'll put it maybe a few inches above the ground down there. Let's see what I got. All right, let me pause the video to make sure I have everything that we need. All right, I think it's like 7.5 or what have you. So we're going to try that to see if it works. And that one will be this one. I don't really know what this distance is going to be, so we will estimate it as just 3 inches, and we'll make sure that follows the rules later on, as well as that one there. Now, this also gives us opportunity to finish the SIM, which is the side impact members that go from here to there, and then back here. And then the other side impact member, SIM, goes to right there. Let's see how close this is to the actual vehicle. And one thing we can do to check on that is to try to make it an overlay in paint.net here. So what I've tried to do is screen capture, first of all, the diagram from the rules. And then I can go over here to do a print screen on this one, or I wonder if I just use light show or light spot here. Is that what it's called? Use an application called Light Shot. Purple feather, I believe. And I overlay this one on top of this one and kind of move it around. What I also did here was I went down to this one and I adjusted the contrast so that you can kind of see them overlay to see how well I did on this. So now I can kind of see both of them. I clearly need to scale this one down. And we're just trying to see how close I got to the actual picture. And you can see that I didn't quite give it that proper perspective. So I will have to change that. So I'll do just maybe a little bit better. I'll go like this. maybe shift up a little bit, just guessing what they had, and then doing one more of these. And then I might pause the video to show you maybe how we can get a little bit closer. All right, so going back to this overlay and seeing how close we can get. How'd I do? I mean, it's not that bad. Now I am changing the aspect ratio, which is not great. And so you can see I did miss the mark right down there. So it's not fantastic. So I'll go through and see if there's any other little things I can change to make it closer, and I'll tell you what those measurements are. So in other words, any of these measurements around here that I need to change, I'll go back and do that. So let me pause the video to see if I can make it just a little bit better for you as far as it being, a starting point. Okay, you can see that I got pretty close on there, except for this beam should be a little bit higher. So let's just go in here and change that and let that be the only thing we change and say that's good enough. So what if we just hit 8.5? And you can see kind of what I did was I took it off of isometric and kind of free-handed it a little bit as far as what angle of view I was looking at. And I assume that the person who made that example sketch did the same thing. So if we put this back over here, probably notice that I'll need to change the size of it. Yeah, it's oversized. So let's shrink it down, see how close it looks now. And then we'll start to either do sweeps or weldments. Looks like I need a little bit of rotation to get it into view, like so. And that's pretty good. It's going to have to be good enough. And again, it's just a starting point. As we begin to go in the direction of making sure that our eventual roll cage matches the what's happened here? Oh, did I go too far? Went the opposite direction is what I did because I was forgetting about that. So let's not go 8.5. Let's just go, let's see, 6. That'll probably work a little bit better. Sometimes it's hard to remember which one of those you're doing. And you could try to line up this one right down here is usually the best one to start with, the bottom of the roll cage. I'm using shift to make sure I maintain my same aspect ratio, although I haven't really done that all the time. And we'll just get close enough. Looks like I need a little bit of rotation and a little bit of shrinking. Okay, and you can see I got a lot closer on my line down here, and I didn't get very close on that diagonal. All right, good enough for a starting point though. All right, so now what do we do next as far as making our sketch like this, something that looks more real, like that right there? All right, so two ways of doing that. Let's first of all save our sketch. One way will be to, let's see, what should we call this? Maybe roll cage 2. We can use weldments. All right, let's see if I can remember how to use weldments. What you want to do with this one is make an assembly. It's not really my favorite thing to do as far as using weldments, um, but I prefer to do sweeps, but I hopefully can show you how easy this one is right here. Now, if I remember right, what you want to do is place your original sketch in there, which is this one, and click once and then hit escape to bounce out of that. All right, and then we've got to go over to the weldments tab, wherever that's at. Design, is it frame? This one right here. You want to save the assembly. So here we can do roll page v2. And it's going to save it as an IAM file. which is an assembly file. I think I put too many periods in there, but that's okay. And what we want to do is pick something that's round, preferably 1 inch in diameter. I just don't think that I was able to find something good as far as tubing, so I had to select pipe instead, which is not really an accurate thing, but just for completeness and simplicity here, I'll select a tube. If you can, I'm sorry, I'll select pipe. If you can find a tube in there, that would be much better. And then you start selecting lines around which these things go. Now, hopefully I can start going like this and just go all the way around. Let's see if I can get that back one right there and then here. And just keep on going all the way around until I get back to here. Now, I think if I went right here, you'll notice that, oh, I can actually keep going. Kind of surprised. Okay, that's probably sweeping that I'm thinking might give us some troubles. So can we do this one? Oh, yeah, looks like we can do them out of order then. All right. So not so difficult as I thought. Looks like we can do them all together. And I'll stop the video after I've completed this and then show you how to do it in a separate video, how to do it my preferred way, and that is using sweeps. Key is to find all of them. But if you miss any, it's okay. You can come back and find it. This might even make a better overlay for comparison. Seems like I always forget one. Let's see if I forgot one this time. These are all the different elements it made for the weldment. Now it's going to process that. Probably need to save it. And so when you get it into this view, you can see the ones that I missed that are in blue. So I think it just might be okay if we just make a new set of weldments, which includes this one and this one. And rolling back to the back side here. Got that bend and these two back supports. Anything else I'm missing? I guess we will know when we click the OK button. And then the other thing we can do is to make it even cleaner is to right click on the initial sketch up here. I believe it's this one and maybe make it invisible. And you guys see now, hopefully, if we're missing anything. And let's see if I can get it to exactly where it was before. The way I did it was I went up like right about there, I think. And then I took a screenshot. And then let's see, do the overlay. And did I get pretty close? Sure did. So maybe I'm trying to be overly careful about trying to make it look exactly right, but it's just one way to approach it. Starting with the simple sketch that is in the rules for the Baja. Now, maybe in the same video, what I can do is now go back and just save this one and show you how to do one example of a sweep and let you complete the rest on your own. The sweeps are a little bit, I guess, more challenging because you have to define the size of the tubing that you're using. So we're over here back to this one right here, and I'm going to save it as a new thing. And this time I'm going to say roll cage sweep or sweeps. And so this is the preferred method of doing um, tubes for your roll cage. What I'm going to do is define a couple of variables. So make this a parameter. And what you can do is go up here to parameters. And you can either remember this number or you can do like I'm doing, and that is define a new numeric number, which will be the thickness of the wall. So I'll put W1 is going to be the wall thickness for my primary members. And I believe that one is 0.12 for the wall thickness. And then I need another one for wall 2. And that could be my thinner one. And I believe that one was 0.6. 065. So I don't really know why that one didn't take. So let me go back up there. 0.12. Okay. So we're going to keep that in mind as we do this. Let's do some simple extrudes or sweeps, first of all. It seems like the simplest one that I like to do is maybe just a circle right here, and we'll try to expand it along the bottom. So what we're going to need is a plane on which to draw right in this area. So let's go down here to making a plane. We want it to be um, perpendicular to that line. So there is the point, and I selected the point and the line to define a plane. And then I can hover over it until it's green, new sketch. And oftentimes you got to hover over it and go this way. For the rest of this, I'm going to go back to tools and application options, and I'm going to tell it not to look at the sketch because it usually gets that wrong when we're doing these work planes. Okay, so then I should be on a sketch and I'm going to do a circle. We know that the rules call for at least a 1 inch diameter tube. And then for the wall thickness right here, I'm going to say that this one right here is 1 minus uh, the wall thickness. Oh yeah, I guess I better be careful about that. Wall thickness times 2. You know what? I think I'm going to handle this a different way. I mean, although this gives me what I'm looking for, I guess I really could have put because I needed the wall thickness times 2 because of that right there. All right, you know what I mean. You could redefine a parameter to be 0.76, I think, to be the inner diameter of this right here. So you could do the following, and it's your choice about how you want to handle this. So let's go back to our environmental variables. Let's see, where is that at? Manage, parameters. And how about we do this in case we want to do this one? Inner diameter 1 is basically going to be 1 minus 0.12 minus 0.12, right? And you see it's 0.76. Now that'd be for the thicker wall. And then for the thinner wall that's allowable for the secondary members of our tubes, then that's going to be 1 minus 2 times 0.065. I can't remember if it's 0.625 or 65. I think it varies actually from manufacturer to manufacturer, but I could be wrong. All right, let's do this one sweep and see how far this takes us. You want to zoom in until you get the donut right there because you don't want the whole thing. And then you select a line on which to project that. And so we can hopefully do that, but it didn't look like it didn't look like it allowed us to go along that axis at all, which is surprising. I thought that that would really do it. So if we hit Control Z, you can see if it doesn't show you a preview, then it basically means it broke. Now, I wonder if we can go in there instead and do this one, and then go for the curve like this, and then go up. Okay, and that allowed us to do that one. And then can we do anything else? Can we go that way? Nope. So you see what I mean? It's kind of tricky on some of these. I'll just try one more option, selecting the profile. I really can't tell you why I prefer sweeps. I just prefer sweeps. And that broke it right there. Now, I wonder if there's a way to undo it. I really haven't found a way. Oh, wait, I think I just figured it out. I clicked on it again. All right, so there's the first sweep. Now, in order to continue this, we need to make the rest of this visible again and set up another line that we can do. And I wonder if we can just basically start right here somewhere. Um, we can put in this three-dimensional sketch right here, edit, and just go to this and put a point right here at the midpoint and maybe one right over here. So that way we can define two planes if we need them in order to do these drawings. So plane here. We also need a plane right there, perhaps, although it didn't let me do that one. There it is. And right click on this plane and say new sketch. Now it doesn't need to be a three-dimensional sketch for this one. It just needs to be 2D. You could probably say look at. Is that one of these options over here? Yeah. And it kind of faces it a little bit better, but sometimes it gets in the way. And I don't know if you noticed something, but our pipe looked pretty weird there. We'll come back to that in a second. See that pipe right there? We got to make an adjustment. You'll see what we're going to need to do there. It's not going to be that weird. This needs to be one. This is also a primary, so I'm going to put ID 1 for the inner diameter. For that one, let's see how far we could take this sweep. I'm going to take this sweep. I'm going to go donut. And then I think we want to pay attention right here. We really want to do this one right here instead, or is it this one? I think it's that. All right, let's try that out. Going back to select and see how far we can take this. Okay, looks like it kept going. To my surprise, usually it doesn't do that. So we're doing good, making this sweep go all the way around, almost like a weld bit would. It does look like it either stops here or I'm confused about where it's looking, but we can use that. Should we go down here? Should we go back that direction? I'm going to keep going back that way. That way I have it closed off. Looks like I made a good boundary for that. Now I wonder if I click this one, if it would fix my previous problem. So I'm gonna click OK, and it looks like it did fix that previous issue. What was happening on this sweep up here was that it was using this orientation rather than this one. So I think I'm just gonna say for these profile curves, let's just use this one right here and say that that's good enough, and we'll use that one for the other one. All right, well, since I'm on a roll, I'm just going to keep going at this video. Hopefully it's not too long. You can always fast forward through the end, or you might actually just have enough information to do the rest on your own. But you see the process here is you got to find a plane perpendicular to your sweep path. So there is another one that we set up right here, new sketch, and you can say look at it. But sometimes when you look at it, where does look at go? There it is. It puts it behind some things, which makes it more difficult. And you got to go find it again. So it's not always easy. And I'm not going to pay attention to whether it's ID 1 or ID 2. I'm going to let you go and look at that. And the way that you want to select whether it's ID 1 or ID 2 is look at the rules. And this should be ID 2 right here. So I think I did part of this wrong. And then the darker one should be ID 1. That'll help with your weight determination about if you get these inner and outer diameters right. So you can see I already made a mistake. I swept all the way through here and back around to here, having just a W1. So in order to get the weight correct, you'd have to do two different sweeps. One of them would be right here where the white is, and the other one would be the darkness right there. So the darker ones are the primary members, and the lighter ones are the secondary members. But I am not going to fix my mistake in the interest of time. I'm going to continue on with this and fix those mistakes outside of this video. All right, so there is selecting the profile. Let's see if we can get lucky and do most of the same thing again. Hitting the home button helps us out a little bit. You can see that the path we want to follow for our sweep is here all the way back to this back part. I wonder why it stopped right there. Let's see. It does look like it stopped at that point. And so sometimes that happens. And now I can't I wonder if you right click on it, will it remove it? Escape, cancel? No, just kind of stopped altogether. So it's not going to hurt us to, let's just do one of these correctly, and that is to do one of the sweeps that has to be right here. And it's going to go only through there and there. Now, is it going to stop at that point? It's going to go here and here. We could see if it can extend back that direction or this direction. Otherwise, we're gonna have to make more of these temporary planes. See, that didn't click. Oh, wait. Oh, that's why I didn't have the right orientation selected. That's probably what happened in the last one as well. All right, and that might have handled this one as well. And do I need this one? I think so. Yeah, but it will not let me select that one. Okay, so I think I did that one properly. And to show you how you would go about doing the other one properly, you go up here and let's put a midpoint dot at this point. So looking at the 3D sketch, editing that, just finding you a point, and I always like to put it at the midpoint so that way it's defined, so to speak, and then 3D model, and then set up my plane, and then zero in on that plane. Okay, where's the plane at? But I can go like that, yeah. And then finish that three-dimensional sketch and just focus in on this one. Can I say look at or normal to? Not seeing it easily there. Still zoom in on it like this, right click and say look at. This is where we're going to draw our next 1-inch diameter tube. And we let this circle be 1 inch. So if we can forget that, we go back over here and just type in 1. And then for this one, I think we said it was going to be ID2. And it's got to be case sensitive, like that. And forgive me if I made a mistake on that part. You see the wall is thinner. The path is going to be, see what I mean about that? The scans everywhere once you try to find out where it went. Let's see, where did it go? Oh, right up there at the top. So then we can try this path and you can see that it went right around pretty well. Can we keep on going? And is there any more further away we can go this way? Let's see, can we go like that? And right here. Let's see how that looks. All right, at this point, what you can do is go over here and you can see what you have left to cover. So making these invisible will show you a couple of things like what other paths are possible to follow. You want to make sure that these are circles and not like ellipses. When they turn into ellipses, it was because of the orientation setting. All right, let me pause the video and I'll finish this up and we'll go on to the next topic. Oh, I did notice something that these work planes are still visible sometimes, so you could go through there and make them invisible. I bet they're only going to be under this three-dimensional sketch, and you can say turn off their visibility. But then what happened to these? Oh, it's up here. So that could help with some things, but remember that you're always going to kind of come back over here to this initial sketch to set up a sweep. Usually by doing a three-dimensional sketch and selecting a point along the midpoint and then going over to model. I like the fact that we leave it in the sketch mode and put the work plane within the 3D sketch. Might make it easier to find. Probably not going to let me start a new sketch from here because I have to finish the 3D sketch, right click new. We know that this one is going to be a primary member. So we put 1 right here and ID 1 for this one. And again, with the case sensitive, right? And then enter, and then here we get our sweep. And you can see that our paths are not available to us. We could see if they can let us show that part. Okay, I'm surprised it actually did that. So can we right click on it and say visible? Then can we go back to the sweep? I don't see that happening. Or it did, maybe? Yeah, but it lost the profile. So there's the profile, and then going down to the path. And let's see what else we have here. Could we do anything fancy, like maybe go in this direction and it's kind of use that one profile for overlays? And I bet it's not going to let us go that way or that way. So that might be as much as we can do on that one. Do we have a beam right here? I think we do. So looking at the rules, we have a beam here. Let's make this cross as well while we're here. So just demonstrating the idea that you're going to need to have two different kinds of metal tubing, wall thicknesses. We can say edit this sketch and then put a dropper. Let's see, 3D sketch point. So we'll put it right. Oh, did it automatically end up there? I think it did. Um, I guess we can do the same thing here, but it can't really find a midpoint. And it doesn't really have to be midpoint, but I'm just going to put it there and see if I can get away with what I would like to do. And that is, let's make some planes. This one, and one is going to be perpendicular to that, and right here. So if y'all think of another way to do this, feel free to put your answer or recommendation in the chat. Okay, I'm not sure what is going on here. I'll just do one at a time. Not really sure if I was selecting this one for the new sketch or not. So it wouldn't hurt to do that again. This one has to have the wall thickness of 1 ID or ID1, a little bit thicker than the other one. Sweep, path, done. Then we could hide those, but let's wait until the end before we start hiding working planes and anything else like sketch lines. All right, what else do we have here? Just meticulous work, right? So plane right there, right click. You see it put that working plane down here. I think I'm going to see if I can continue to keep it up here just for organizational purposes. That means you're editing the sketch while you're making a plane. Just a personal preference right there. And then click finish. Then we select a new sketch. Then we put our circle. And this time it's going to have an inner diameter of 2. Outer diameter of 1. Sweep profile. It's going to be the donut. Sometimes you got to zoom in to spot it. And then I wonder if we could do these side branches. That would have been so nice, right? Doesn't look like it, and we don't really need to go that direction. It's not part of the roll cage, so I think that's all we could do. So that's not so fun. That just means we got to do these two also. If you find yourself not making one of these dots here exactly on that line, you will get some non-concentric or non-circular tubing in the process. These don't have to be primary members, so ID2 should be okay. Zoom in sometimes to select the profile. New sketch. 1 inch. ID2. Time for a sweep. And let's see how we're doing. All right. I wonder where this one is here, and if we could extend it down that direction. So you could try to hover over these, see if you can spot them. It looks like this one here. Can we edit that feature and say just, oh, wait, it went this direction instead? Aha. Okay. So that makes sense why I would do that. Oh, well, it was worth a shot. Wait. I just noticed something. It put that line all the way through there. When did that happen? Okay, now I suspect it happened when I was doing this one. So we will go and see if we can find that one, hovering over each one right here, edit the feature, and then just say delete the curves and say I only want, oh my, okay, it's trying to do the whole thing. No wonder. That means we need to somehow make a new profile, which is only the distance between those two. Or maybe not a profile, but just a limited sketch. So we're going to try to do that. And we're going to make it from right here to right there and see if it can identify that it really does exist. So finish that sketch, going back to the sweep that was right here, edit, feature, change the curves to just the one. Can we say select other? And then we go down to that one. Look at me. So that's a very rare situation where you use select other and it finds the object below the layer that you're working on. Now let's see if we can go ahead and come in here and we'll edit this three-dimensional sketch. Put a point along here. I like the midpoint, but if you don't spot it easily, that's okay. Side impact members, I'm pretty sure, are secondary mirrors, which secondary um, members. I say secondary mirrors sometimes because I'm thinking about astronomy. All right, so how good did this sweep go? Can we sweep down there? That helps us out a little bit. Can we continue this sweep going to the back? Sure. Probably not in these other directions though. So we're getting a little bit closer to the end. I'm going to try to do a sweep I guess all the way over the top. All right. Does the roll cage need to be primary members? And I think that it does. Yes. Now, can we sweep this all the way around for the firewall? I'm not sure why it's not allowing us to do that. It kind of stops right there. It likes it to go in that direction, just not the other direction here. So curious, kind of annoying, because then it just looks like you got to do one sweep at a time, which we will have to do. So we will keep at it. Probably somebody shares, yelling at the screen, going, "There's an easier way to do this. Please let us know if there is." There's probably something that I'm not seeing in there. This one does not need to be a primary member, or actually it does. Okay, and I think I got all of the sweeps completed. And just to be sure, I will see what happened. Oh, there's some work planes down here. And we can make our 3D sketch invisible and just kind of look around for things that are a little bit off. But it looks like we're on point here. And I wonder then if we could just say, take all of these sweeps and make them the same material. So maybe go up to here, default material, and let's just make it steel. Let you decide which ones to use, of course. We can go up here to eye properties and see that if we update this and figure out how much this thing weighs, that cannot be right, right? 10.9 pound masses is not correct. So let's see if there's something, maybe it's not looking at the entire thing. Oh, materials generic. And then 85 pounds. I'm not so sure if that's correct. It could be, but it would be good to go ahead and check the work on this. In other words, the best path forward would be to make a spreadsheet that, and I think I have an example one that I can show you, which is kind of a BOM for the material. and just write down what you think the distances are between each one of these named elements. This is another student's work here, so you might have something similar over there. All right, and the last thing here is let's just shade these primary members to make us aware that we're going to need to use different tube diameters when we move forward with this. So let's see if we can do that. Can we just make them black just like they are there? Looks like it would be anodized aluminum. I think that might just be the appearance though, and probably not the actual material as far as following. That didn't work. I think this is just going to be the appearance and not the actual eye properties. But I could be wrong, so let's just say black. All right, that looks good. It's a little bit dotted. Oh, okay, so it's got some texture to it. All right, so maybe not that one. So this shape here, what should we call that shape? Kind of an A with a box on the top of it. Let's just make it flat black or anodized black. Looks pretty good. And let's slide this over here to the left-hand side. And we'll pull this to the right-hand side to make sure we get all of this properly done. And so we know that if we go over the top of this, that all of these, what do they call this? Overhead members, I believe. All of this needs to be made out of the primary material. I'm using shift click when I do this. I'm surprised that these are not primary, although wouldn't hurt, I think, to make those primary. I like the fact that there's not really one here that gives you a little bit more space for steering and foot pedals and so forth. Now, let's see if I am actually done. So let's go back up here and say anodized aluminum, which is not correct, but we're just going for appearance. All right. Looks like this one needs to be that way as well. Anything else? Yeah. Okay, so this one down here, I'm gonna do a shift click on that one. So the bottom, and then this shape kind of stands out a little bit more on my sketch as far as what should be primary members. So it's going to help us not forget to be compliant in that area. Not sure why I didn't remember what I was doing. Remember to save this file, upload it to D2L, and make sure it has the word sweep in there. So if you chose to upload the, what do you call them? The weld nets, I guess that would be all right as well, but make sure you also upload this sweep version. That looks like it's about it. Now, if you want to make it look almost like the sketch that's in the book, uh, or the rules like this right here, you can hit the home button and then go up a little bit like this, make it look a little closer. Then right click on this and say set the current position to be, I think you say view like this. So that way if you go to front, clever look there, and then you can look at the right, the rear as well. Going back to home takes us to that view instead of the isometric view that we saw previously. You can also redefine the right view and the front view, but I like what I have here. All right, make sure you save, upload to D2L, and I'll see you in the next video.